Hello, my name's Cliff Sarantine, and this is my world, the Canadian Northwoods. Join me on an adventure as I trek deep into the forest to track and observe the denizens who dwell there. The land and its creatures have much to teach us, lessons of harmony and balance, and sheer joy in this moment of life, and we can only benefit from becoming part of their story. So let's go and enter this enchanted forest. The world is full of magic. You only have to go out and find it. Days like today are pure magic. I'm following the Hollow Brook to where it joins a much larger brook that we call the Rusalka Brook. And ostensibly, I'm after snowshoe hares and grouse. I'm thinking of having stuffed grouse and wild rice or Hassenpfeffer for dinner tonight. I've already taken a couple of rabbits, and a couple more will make plenty for today and tomorrow. This is a very interesting site. I'm back in a fairly remote old forest here in Nova Scotia. And what we have here is a site where a fairly large animal, nearly a meter long from forepaws here to hind paws there, the animal defecated, which you can see right over there, and the animal scraped a good bit trying to throw litter over its feces. This is feline behavior, and this is a fairly large patch of spoor here. I've come across panther spoor back in this forest in the remoter areas before, and I think I've just happened upon it again. This is quite a find. There have been a few panther findings in the last 2 years in Nova Scotia, and the spoor I came across dates back 5-6 years, so I know they've been here longer. They're just very secretive and remote. And I think they're in the area. Now, through the forest that way, toward the southwest, unfortunately, there's an area where loggers have been cutting the old forest, and it's roughly a square mile in size. There had been a stable den of remote coyotes there. There had been at least 2 black bears that lived in the area. And I wouldn't be surprised if there had been a panther in this area too, and they've been disturbed and displaced. I know that the bears and the coyotes have been disturbed and displaced. It is roughly 5 feet from the forepaws to the hindpaws to the area of defecation right here. This is definitely the feces of a large predator, and it's been eating meat lately. And if you look closely, you can see that there's rabbit droppings there and there, which is not to say that it killed this rabbit. That's unlikely. But this is an abundant year. We're high up, we're near the peak of the rabbit cycle in this area right now, and there are snowshoe hares everywhere. The feces of an animal can tell you a lot about what's going on in its life. This animal has been eating meat. It's been eating well. We're going to break it up. There's some small, fine hairs in there. I strongly believe that this is the feces of a large wild cat. Just like humans, wild animals also create paths for ease of movement. Right here is a path. This is most likely a snowshoe hare path, but it's probably also used occasionally by such animals as porcupines and raccoons. These paths often turn into game trails shared by any number of animals. There are game trails and there are game superhighways, and this is one. Just following my feet and my instincts, I came to this spot, good ways east of our homestead, fairly deep in the old forest. This is a deer trail, and in fact, right down there is the evidence it's a deer trail. Those are fairly fresh deer pellets. This trail goes on into that relatively new patch of forest right there. It's a forest of willows and alders and young beeches and other trees, various spruce. That'll be a rich site for game, and I'll most likely find both snowshoe hares and spruce grouse in there. Might even stumble upon a deer or bear, though I'm not hunting either. It's December 26th, and it's a bit late for bear normally, but it's been such a warm winter, and as you can see, there's no snow on the ground, which is very bizarre for Nova Scotia. But this is a good game site. Well, will you look at this? I just noticed this. How could I miss it? We have the skull of a deer. Question is, what killed it? Human or a mysterious possible cougar? This is most definitely a deer. You can tell by the upper jaw set of teeth that are designed to grind vegetation. And this was definitely a human kill. It's quite easy to tell because the back of the skull has been sawn off. This was not a very big buck, but somebody sawed off the back of the skull after killing it to keep the antlers for a trophy. What a day to live in the Highlands. There's magic in a day like this. Can you feel it? To be deep in a forest, kissed by winter but not yet visited by snow except in the shadowy places. This is the kind of day that reminds you just how good it is to be alive and live on a sweet blue-green planet called Earth. These are tracks of a young doe, or a yearling, moving across the sphagnum moss. And whatever it was up to, it passed through that narrow copse of dense spruces right there. Such areas provide windbreaks, shelter, and varied food for cervids such as deer. And I'm heading over there because such spots provide handy areas to find both snowshoe hares and especially grouse. I've come across 3 mature bald eagles, a pair of ravens, and several other birds in the last few minutes. The concentration of bald eagles and the raven that was just flying over here told me something was going on right in this spot. And here's what was going on. This is a raccoon that looks to have been killed last night, and as you can see, it's already half eaten. It doesn't take nature long to put away animals that have passed away. We have another bald eagle circling right over there. And it is eagerly waiting for me to clear the area. So it looks like sometime yesterday this raccoon was killed, and the raptors and ravens and crows have just about used up the entire carcass already. In Alaska once, a semi was passing down a highway and hit a herd of caribou that happened to be passing through, and 21 caribou were killed. I and 2 other men were asked to go out and salvage any of the usable meat to disperse in the village. And of those 21 caribou, we were able to salvage 14. The other 7 we piled up and left in a clearing in the bush. 1 day later, half the meat from those caribou were gone. Within 3 days, all that were left were a few scraggly bones, and within 5 days, you could never tell that we had left caribou there at all. Nature does not waste, and it is very efficient in not wasting. And not 20 feet away from the dead raccoon is a birch sprouting chaga. It's amazing how abundant nature is when you take the time to look. Thank you for watching Tracking, the Language of Animals. Keep watching to learn more about the natural world and the joys of getting to know it. As always, go soft, go gently, and leave no trace. Let's go home, boy.